Oh, welcome everyone. This is Cyndi, and I'm here with Rona.
Hey
Hi, Rona.
everybody. Hey
And
everybody. Hey
this,
Cyndi.
we are in episode 2 of our Tools for Awakening podcast, which is a part of the awareness podcast. And man, each one is better than the last one. So, really happy you're here. And today, take a breath now. We get to talk about the pause.
My favorite.
Last month in episode number 1, we talked about honesty. And I'm real curious, if you take a step back, if you haven't listened to it, it's not that long. It's, I think, 35, 40 minutes. If you haven't listened to it, I would like to recommend you go back and listen. You can listen in the car. It is a podcast, or do whatever you want to do. But more than listening, the question is, have you practiced? Have you been aware? Because honesty, the way we described it last week, was consistency. Are we being consistent in our thoughts, our words, our deeds? Are we transparent? We are who we say we are. No masks, no thinking one thing and doing another. So the question is, how you doing with that? How are you doing with that, Rona?
Well, Cyndi, I'm doing well. I mean, it's top of mind. And because of our time together last month, I've really put into practice asking myself if I'm in alignment. So that has been a little buzzword question for myself. And I've had a few opportunities where I was clearly not in alignment, and took some of the suggestions that we talked about in our last podcast. And, the big deal for me is the noticing, of course, not being asleep and just noticing when I've got that resistance or that push or pull. And I found many opportunities to do that.
And I have some friends, and we've coined the term the princess and the pea, and that is very much the experience I'm having, which means that as we say yes more and more to these practices, we notice more and more when we're out of alignment, when we're not being consistent, when there's an edge, and we're not being 100% authentic with our internal dialogue and our external dialogue and actions. And I've really noticed that. I've been noticing these subtle judgments, or how often it just becomes natural to say, yep, there's someone out there who is doing something that is affecting me. And that's just not true in this work, right? If our minds are wholly healed, if we are consistent in thought and in deed and in action and in, all of those things, then nothing ever upsets us. Then nothing can ever disturb our peace, because the peace is what we are, right? So
right. I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable being uncomfortable anymore, And your question to us last month, do I want to be right, or do I want to have peace? That's a big question.
Yeah. So I've been practicing too, and it's amazing how often, more often than I thought, until you really start paying attention, I catch myself before I take a step in the world that would strengthen my belief in conflict, even subtle. There's a me and there's a you, and I have to correct you to make me feel okay inside. No, I'm noticing that more and more, and letting go of the need for Cyndi to be right or to make a difference. Just So that's very, very cool. And the practice that we're going to introduce for many that we, anyone that's in our community that's coming in, they've heard about this practice before. That being said, it's amazing. Well, let's just put it this way. Let's keep talking about it and introducing it and looking at it from different avenues until it becomes part of our default, right?
Yes. If we keep practicing, it will. It for sure will.
And our inspiration in introducing the pause is by reading, by going to A Course in Miracles. And I don't know if I've done this quite like this before in one of our podcasts, but this is such an exciting lesson that Rona and I have decided that we're going to read it. It's not that long. It won't take but a few minutes. The invitation we have for you is to get still and to do your best to stay like an open kind of field and allow these words to just land and sink in. Even if you've been a Course in Miracles student for decades, the invitation is to listen as if you're hearing it for the first time, A, and B, as if the secret is contained in the pointing in this one lesson. Like, think in terms of, if I only accept this lesson and its pointings, and I go and I do what this lesson is suggesting I do, then the peace of God is mine, or the stillness of awareness is mine all the time. And all I have to do is this. Give it a shot, right? In case you're home and you have A Course in Miracles workbook right in front of you, Rona and I will be reading lesson 128. The world I see holds nothing that I want. Would you like to begin?
Absolutely. I'll start with the first paragraph and we'll see what comes up. My own experience has been is that each time I read these lessons, something jumps out at me that is really pertinent to whatever is going on. So, lesson 128. The world I see has nothing that I want. The world you see has nothing that you need to offer you. Nothing you can use in any way, nor anything at all that serves to give you joy. Believe this thought, and you are saved from years of misery, from countless disappointments, and from hopes that turn to bitter ashes of despair. No one but must accept this thought as true if he would leave this world behind and soar beyond its petty scope and little ways. What that really says to me is that, I can search for awakening or happiness or beingness through objects of experience in this world, the new car, the new house, the new job, the new boyfriend, the new husband, the new marriage. And although maybe temporarily some of those things will bring me peace and joy, it's really limited and will eventually no longer serve me that way.
And when you get still and you practice the pause and everything else that we're pointing to, you will notice these things. You will notice how much suffering or discomfort is caused by these desires in the world. Test it out for yourself. Don't assume that what is being told to you in your mind is accurate. Really look.
Yes. What is causing my suffering right now? And what comes to me is a person, place, or a thing.
In the world.
In the world.
All right. Shall we go? We will continue.
Yes.
Each thing you value here is but a chain that binds you to the world, and it will serve no other ends but this. For everything must serve the purpose you have given it until you see a different purpose there. The only purpose worthy of your mind this world contains is that you pass it by without delaying to perceive some hope where there is none. Be you deceived no more. The world you see has nothing that you want. And we were just pointing to this. Yeah. So would you like to continue?
Sure. Paragraph 3. Escape today the chains you place upon your mind when you perceive salvation here. For what you value, you make part of you as you perceive yourself. All things you seek to make your value greater in your sight limit you further, hide your worth from you, and add another bar across the door that leads to true awareness of yourself. So that to me is that being aware of being aware in that pausing moment and pulling back from all of these objects of experience that seem to be making me suffer.
Right. And again, that question, do I want this car or do I want the peace of God? Do I want that new relationship or would I prefer to rest in the stillness of awareness? Because regardless of what your mind is telling you, you cannot have both.
Yeah, what comes to me there, Cyndi, is I'll have peace when this thing happens. I mean, that is so stuck in the world. I can have peace now, whether or not that thing occurs or circumstance changes. I can have the peace now.
Yeah. The only time you can actually rest in peace is now. Is that cool? And the harvest is now. And anything that your mind tells you that would delay that, it's just not true. If you believe the mind and what the mind tells you about what you need to be happy, here's what I can promise you. As soon as you get that, there might be and then the mind's going to give you a list of 10 more things. Mind is never happy.
Right.
Let nothing that relates to body thoughts delay your progress to salvation, nor permit temptation to believe the world has nothing you want to hold you back. Nothing is here to cherish. Nothing here is worth one instant of delay and pain, one moment of uncertainty and doubt. The worthless offers nothing. Certainty of worth cannot be found in worthlessness. The world I see, based on my understanding and my experience, reflects the mind. It doesn't satisfy the mind. So if everything I see that appears to be outside of me is nothing other than a reflection of thoughts, right? And if I look at it and I convince myself or I believe the thoughts or the programs that tell me my happiness is out there, then all we can know for sure is that the program thought that states the happiness is always something I have to go for out there will continue to be fed. And it won't matter if it's the car or a date on a Saturday night or my children being happy or a certain number in the bank account. As long as the program that says my happiness is out there is running and believed, my happiness will always appear to be one more thing in the world away. The harvest is now independent of that one program.
Yes, and the word worthlessness to me reminds me of things are temporary. And what I think we're pointing to is placing ourselves in this place of peace, which is eternal and ever present and changeless and not temporary. And so these things in the world draw me in, but they all have a beginning, a middle, and an end to them, seemingly in this world. And so I'm trying to put, my faith and trust in the eternal.
Beautiful. Would you like to read paragraph number 5?
Yes. Today we practice letting go all thoughts of values we have given the world. We leave it free of purposes we gave its aspects and its phases and its dreams. We hold it purposeless within our minds and loosen from all we wish it were. Thus do we lift the chains that bar the door to freedom from the world and go beyond all little values and diminished aims. And, letting go for me has been kind of a buzzword for a long time. How do I let something go? For me today, what that means is when I'm pausing, don't touch it. Don't, it's happening, but let go of my involvement in whatever the chitter chatter is going on. Surrender to it, perhaps even welcome. Ooh, there's a concept, but that's what letting go means to me today, is just that lack of involvement, noticing I'm involved and then stepping back from that involvement.
Here's something that's very, very cool. I have a copy of the blue A Course in Miracles in front of me and the purple. Both books are in front of me. And paragraph 6, which is where the pause comes from, is different in the two books. I believe that there's a typo in the purple book, and how cool is that? The purple book begins, peace, and be still a little while, and see how far you rise above the world when you release your mind from chains and let it seek the level where it finds itself at home. Foundation for Inner Peace, the blue book reads, pause and be still a little while and see how far you rise above the world when you release your mind from chains and let it seek the level where it finds itself at home. It will be grateful to be free a while. It knows where it belongs. But free its wings and it will fly in sureness and in joy to join its holy purpose. Let it rest in its creator, there to be restored to sanity, to freedom, and to love.
Wow. Pause.
Pause and be still a little while. So here's the thing. We see what we've always seen until we choose to see differently. So the world, and if you step back and just look at your world, contemplate it a little while, and this is a great exercise, right? You will come to the conclusion that your experience of the world is pretty much exactly what you expect. It may not be what you quote unquote like, but it will be what you expect. It will be what you have placed your attention on up until now. The power of the pause is in withdrawing your attention from the thoughts and the expectations that have colored your world up until this moment. You pause, you step back, and you don't, in that pause, attempt to create anything. This is not visualization. This is not using your imagination. This is not, oh, I am going to place my attention on peace and love so I get more peace and love. It's not that. awareness, being aware of awareness, pausing, withdrawing your believing attention from the world and just being with what is right now, just getting curious about it, rewrites the script of the experience. It literally pulls the juice out of the believing attention that has created a world that fulfills your expectations. And when you drop your limited expectations by hanging out in the pause, awareness, truth, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, can do its thing to expand your world, expand your expectations, create experiences that you could not have if you insist on continuing to focus on what you've always focused on before.
Absolutely. As we've mentioned before, awareness is curative. And I've had that direct experience in my life, using the pause practice as a mom of a disabled child whose perception at one time of said other seeming person was one that was sick and broken and damaged, and using the pause and bringing and resting as awareness and separating, not involving, taking things exactly the way it is. My perception has changed, you know, it really has. I mean, awareness has changed my experience with that.
So here's the other thing. Wisdom, guidance, everything we need to rise in consciousness, to extend our awareness of the truth is with us all the time. So last week, Rona and I knew, at least a week before this recording, that we were going to touch on the practice of the pause today. In sitting, I didn't sit and attempt to use my intellectual mind to come up with a format for how that was going to be shared. Instead, I sat, opened up, and asked for the practice that would serve. How can we use this time together to serve truth? That's my question. And from that stillness, the idea for this lesson arose to focus on what this lesson's practice is. The thing is, and that is cool, I'm a student of A Course in Miracles. It could be there. The thing is, in my little apartment, I have one copy of the blue book and 2 copies of the purple. And I tend to go to the purple book to read. Except today I went right to the blue, even though they were stacked one on top of the other. I never noticed. I go looking, people, I'll tell everybody who listens that there's a significant difference in lesson 233 between the blue book and the purple book, but I never saw this before. It's meaningless relative to anything except for the pointing that when we're still, when we're in the pause, when we say, how can we serve? We're told where to go and what to do. And it's in this copy of A Course in Miracles that the words pause and be still a little while and see how far you can rise above the world. We wouldn't have gotten that instruction had I followed my typical intellectual knowledge and gone to the purple book.
That
Pretty
is
cool.
beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, what's been, explained to me is that we have a direct communication with awareness, with source, with our creator, and we do gain that wisdom. And I feel that in my life too, through pausing and just allowing myself, my smallest self, to step back and to be led. And so I'm
So,
grateful.
yeah, so this next paragraph, and there's really only two paragraphs left. We're not going to recommend to anyone that they follow the guidance of 10 minutes rest 3 times a day. So why don't you just skip that sentence and go or read it? But
Okay.
relative to how it's coming to me anyway, relative to what we're going to recommend today, it's not 10 minutes 3 times a day. It's actually every time we notice. So
Short moments,
that
many.
said, right, go for it.
Yes. Okay. Give it 10 minutes rest 3 times a day. And when your eyes are opened afterwards, you will not value anything you see as much as when you looked at it before. Your whole perspective on the world will shift by just a little every time you let your mind escape its chains. The world is not where it belongs, and you belong where it would be and where it goes to rest when you release it from the world. Your guide is sure. Open your mind to him. Be still and rest.
And why don't we just finish this out and then discuss the practice?
Go ahead.
Protect your mind throughout the day as well. And when you think you see some value in any aspect or an image of the world, refuse to lay this chain upon your mind, but tell yourself with quiet certainty, this will not tempt me to delay myself. The world I see holds nothing that I want. So the practice, my friends, many times throughout the day. And whenever there's a guidance to practice the pause, say yes. And whenever you feel a contraction, whenever there's something in the world that has caught your attention and you believe and your energy is saying, this needs to change so that I can be okay, I would love for you to hear our voices and have it snap. Great time to practice the pause. So just again, the background is that you are the peace of God. You are the light of the world. We have never left the Tao. However, the verbiage is that you are with. We are awareness. We are consciousness. We are the I am. We are the peace and the stillness. So that's our background, is this stillness. And it's the truth, no matter what happens in the world. The world we see reflects the thoughts that have been paid attention to up until now.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have to change the thoughts to other thoughts to have the peace of God. All we really have to do is withdraw our believing attention from the limited thoughts. The best way to do that, or a powerful way to do that, is to pause short moments many times throughout the day. Pause and rest your mind from the story. Allow yourself to sink into the experience of awareness, of stillness, of your feet on the floor, of the beauty of the snow or the rain, playing with a puppy or petting a cat, or just breathing in the beauty of this present moment. And the more you do that, what you're basically doing in the poetic language of A Course in Miracles is untying those chains, breaking those chains to this automatic, unconscious feeding of the thoughts that create a world that creates suffering.
Pause and rest. Because I found it's in that stillness. That's where the miracle happens for me.
So once again, we have our friend Wynn. We've had this conversation before, and I always mention her because I'll never forget. We were having a conversation among friends, and we were talking about the power of doing nothing, of resting in awareness. And she said, of all the spiritual practices, this one is the most difficult. And I would like to state it reaps some of the greatest rewards. For in withdrawing our attention and our belief and our focus on fixing our world or making it a better place, we are allowing awareness to dissolve those chains, and everything just expands.
Yes.
So that's it. That's all I got. Rona, do you have any more?
No, I'm just saying woohoo right now. I mean, we don't have to touch it. We don't have to stay involved with it. It's back to that choice that we talked about last month. I do have a choice.
Very cool. All right. So Tools for Awakening, episode 1 was honesty. Episode 2, the pause. In our next episode next month, we're going to talk about trust.
Excellent.
Gorgeous thing. So until then, thank you so much for tuning in to this Tools for Awakening podcast. I am Cyndi, here with my good friend Rona. Tune in to all of our awareness podcast episodes. I think you'll enjoy them all. And other than that, I love us very much.
I love us as well. And feel free to leave a comment if you're trying our practices and having success or feeling like you're not. Let us know.
Let us know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cyndi.
Bye-bye, everyone.